Hi there. Welcome to the Connecting KC podcast. I'm Rachel Kilmer, also known as Rach the Realtor on the internet, where I love, connecting all things Kansas City. I'm a metro area real estate agent, retired sports reporter, and mom, and probably too old to be calling myself a TikToker, but honestly, that's how we got here. You can learn more at www.rachtherealtorkc.com. But this show is all about introducing you to all of the movers and shakers, interesting people, heartfelt stories, and funny quirks that make this vibrant community home. So let's get right to it with today's episode of Connecting KC. Okay, welcome in to Connecting KC. I am so excited about today's guest. Aaron Habel is a host on two true crime podcasts, Generation Y, as well as Framed, an investigative story. He lives in Kansas City with his family and 3 cats. I love Generation Y, Aaron. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited you're here. Thank you for being here.
Well, I'm excited to be here too.
Yeah, awesome. So many things I love about your podcast, but one thing that I think is so interesting is the longevity. 10 years. So first of all, congratulations on that. I know you guys had a big celebration last year, but what has this whole decade of podcasting been like with the changes in technology and the podcasting industry in and of itself?
Well, there are the positives and the negatives. I would say the positives are we were able to get out there and get our name known, which is amazing. But on the other hand, we had to play catch up on all of the things that people who start today don't have to play catch up on, such as what mics to use, what software to use, etc. Back when we started, there was no handy guide that actually worked. Trust me, I tried them all.
No kidding. So when you first started, I remember when the podcast icon first showed up on my iPhone, which was probably about 2012. And I was like, I'll never use that. What is this dumb app? And now it's like such a part of my day-to-day life. And I know so many other people. When you first started making the podcast, what were your expectations and what did you think would come of it? Did you ever dream you'd be in a situation like you're in today?
No, we actually started because Justin said he wanted to tell people about his jury duty. But I think that was just the catalyst. I think what truly happened, because, when you first start, you only have a few listeners. I think what we enjoyed was just telling each other aspects of cases or situations and talking about them. So for us, it was just a way to hang out.
Yeah, definitely. So in 2012, in the early days of this podcast, where were you connecting with your listeners? Was this was like peak Facebook era, right? Or where were you having these post-show conversations with listeners most frequently?
Well, it's really funny because early on, we didn't know where the listeners were coming from. I remember Justin checking the stats and getting back to me, and this was just weeks in, and he said, Aaron, are you sitting down? I'm like, yeah. He's like, we have 80 listeners. I'm like, get out of here. We don't have 80 people listening to us. That's ridiculous. He's like, no, we have 80. It's actually probably 82, and I'm like, I don't know where are these people coming from? And some of those people are still listening today. So it's really funny, but yeah, you don't know where they come from. And the funniest story about it is we actually had people emailing us and saying, what are your qualifications? Are you police officers? Are you attorneys? What gives you the right to speak on this? Are you journalists? And I had to write back and say, we're IT people. But we're very interested and we have opinions.
Yeah, that's right. Who else would know how to launch a podcast in 2012, right?
Well, and that wasn't going to stop me because I was a big reader. I read stuff all the time. I was always following cases because I became interested in true crime as a child. And that was because I was watching In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy, and he covered Jack the Ripper. And when I learned of these cases, I thought, wow, there is no bigger mystery than who got away with murder, because we always want justice. So that's been a driving part of the show, is justice, and also analyzing the system, not saying here's how it works, deal with it, but here's how it works and we're not happy with it.
Yeah. So important. So I actually wondered that being based out of Kansas City, is there anything funky or really horrible about the systems in Kansas and Missouri specifically and how we handle cases like you would cover that people should know about? Like, is there anything locally that just really enrages you?
I don't know that we're any. I don't know that we're so different
Mhm.
that I have to point anything out. But I will say I get the sense that there is a lot of implicit trust in our system here where we've had people, we had a gentleman released, I think, yesterday after many years in prison because there's this implicit trust that the system wouldn't have made a mistake. But that's not the case. And even well meaning people make mistakes. You're only as good as the information you have. And sometimes that information is either lacking or just not good.
Some of that might be like a cultural thing of just where we are in the country, like Midwestern kind of trust and authority in general. Um, and that kind of brings me to like the culture around true crime. Have you seen big changes in the type of person that would be drawn to this content from 10 years ago to now? Or has it always been something that everyone's kind of interested in, but kind of didn't want to admit it 10 years ago, maybe?
I believe that there is a wide variety of people that get interested in true crime for different reasons. I think one of the things that Generation Y, as well as other podcasts, like there's a podcast in Kansas City, Crime Lines, hosted by Charlie, and she, I know, is very much into this as well. But we feel like we can sort of educate the audience who needs it on what they should be concerned with when it comes to true crime because it involves real people, real death, real court cases. Everything here matters. So it's not just flippant entertainment. And so the more we can let people know how serious this is, then we'll have more ethical people listening. And it's not to say that everyone listening has to think a certain way, but we definitely feel there are some things that people should be tuning into and thinking about as they listen.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like I said, I'm someone that consumes true crime and sometimes I do think about the like ethical ramifications of it. Like do you guys ever, I mean, how do you handle that? Your policy on like cuz you don't know the family members of the person that this case is about, how they feel about it. Like is there ever times where you reach out to someone before you cover a case because you're not sure if the family would want you to, or you just try to do like right by them and really, lay out all the facts fairly? Like, how do you handle that?
Yeah, that is definitely something we've talked about many times. And sometimes we do reach out, sometimes we don't. It has a lot to do with a variety of complications, though. I mean, sometimes we don't have the ability to reach out, sometimes we do. Sometimes we choose not to because we've noticed that there are some questions in the case, and the family would not like our take on the case, maybe because we're giving different possibilities and they would like to control the narrative. So, definitely things that need to be thought about every time we cover something, but I don't think there's one approach that works for every case.
Absolutely. What is your favorite? Not favorite's a strong word, but like the most fascinating case that's based in Kansas City to you? Do you have one that jumps out?
Well, I think one of the most fascinating cases that is out of Kansas City is the Kansas City firefighters case. And this is something we covered long ago. And even to this day, people still argue and debate over who actually set the fire that destroyed all those fire trucks and the lives of 6 firefighters.
Mm-hmm. And then is there like a Kansas City case that you want to cover but haven't yet because there's just not enough information or for whatever reason?
Nothing really comes to mind at the moment, but again, we don't really focus on Kansas City necessarily. It's one of those situations where we have probably 500 cases in waiting, and we do try to bounce around to different parts of the world or the country. And then, sometimes we'll look up cases, and I can't tell you what they are at the moment, but we get research done on a case and we think we don't have enough information here. And a good example is from a nearby area in Oklahoma. There are 3 people who went missing. I don't know if you know about the 3 missing from Oklahoma, but it's a fascinating case. They have since found one of them deceased, but that's a case that we don't have a lot of information on, but I'm probably going to try and find a way to cover it because it's got my attention and I can't stop thinking about it.
Definitely. Some of you guys are so good at that where some of your shows, it's actually frustrating though. So, like, maybe don't do it as much. But when I listen to your show, I'll find myself thinking about it for days after. Like, you're so good at picking those cases that just make you go, it's so frustrating. Like, it feels like it's there, but we just don't know yet. Is that an enjoyable part of it for you, or is it as frustrating to you as it is to me as a listener?
Well, I think what it comes down to is in life, answers don't come easily, right? This isn't a TV series where everything gets solved at the end. And it's so difficult when you talk to people and you ask them, like, oh, you went through this terrible thing and are you doing better now? And everything's a journey. And for some people, solving crimes, having justice for a loved one who's been murdered, that's a journey that may never end, even if they get the name of the person. Sometimes they can't prosecute them because they're deceased, or sometimes they get them, but then they don't get the sentence that you think they should get. There are so many ways that this just doesn't finish neatly that we all have to come to understand. You need to have patience and understanding, because the best we can hope for is that you have the answer of what happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My next question I had for you, you already answered for me. I was wondering if you guys run out of cases to cover, but I think you said you have about 500 in the lineup there. How do you choose? I know you said like you want to bounce around geographically. Is there any hierarchy of like this is how we decide what we should cover and this is what needs to wait, or how do you make those tough decisions?
Well, not only do we bounce around geographically, but we also bounce around on the type of cases that we cover. So if we cover a disappearance, we wouldn't want to cover another disappearance or two in the following weeks. And then the other thing that happens is we'll discover cases, and sometimes there's a case where we say we need to cover that much sooner. We really want to discuss this because, as you know, when you listen to episodes, some of them stand out more than others where you just can't shake them and you keep thinking about them even while you're starting another one.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you manage keeping up with the cases? Because you do updates at the top of the show quite often, but with 10 years of cases, I'm sure there's hundreds and hundreds of updates each year. How do you manage that?
It's an interesting. We try to keep up with cases, but as you know, life gets in the way. We have listeners who keep us up to date. They'll send us emails or messages and say, typically they'll say, "Hey guys, just wanted to write in and let you know that so and so has now been found guilty," etc. Or they'll say, "Here's the latest on Pamela Hupp." You know, that works. So
Mm-hmm.
one way or the other, we can't avoid it really.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, what do you see for the future of this show? I'm sure it's kind of hard to envision because it's already come so far in a decade, but do you have like a goal, like how you want to see this show continue to grow and evolve as the kind of culture around true crime evolves? Or what do you see for the future for Generation Y?
Well, I think the future, as I understand it, is we want to do a couple of things. One of the things, and these are probably things that I want to see happen mostly, but I want to see us consider more things when we're recording episodes. I think one thing we could do a little better with is connecting with our audience. We need to ask them questions, because I'll tell you what, we get great emails from our listeners. They're very well read, they have great minds. And so I enjoy getting that feedback. Even if we don't agree, I get some excellent emails that I enjoy reading, and it really makes me think about the cases in new ways. And the other thing is, I would really like to try and grow more. I know we have a really big audience and we're fortunate in that way, but I feel like we can bring more energy to the show without being disrespectful.
Absolutely. I when I run into someone that, especially here in Kansas City, that hasn't heard of you guys, I'm like, what? Like, have you been under a rock this whole time? How do you not know? Because you guys do have such a large audience. It seems like, most people I know would know of you guys, but not everyone. So there's still room to grow for sure.
I
Uh,
think a big part of that too, Rachel, is that people need a way in. One example would be our logo, right? So some people might look at the logo and it might not draw them in. If you notice Netflix, when you go to Netflix, you might skip past a series a few times and the logo will change. Like whatever the image is that you see for that show, they'll eventually find an image where you think, okay, now I'm going to at least read about this. And we haven't changed our logo in a great number of years. I couldn't tell you how long it's been. It's probably been 7 years, 6, 7 years since we really changed our logo. So it might be time to do that.
Maybe, you never know. And one thing I always wondered is, how did you guys come up with the name?
The name is easy to explain because when I was talking to Justin and he was trying to tell me what he wanted, and I just asked him, I said, "You're wanting us to start a podcast, right?" And he said, "Sure." Justin's he's very spontaneous. And then I said, "Well, we can't have a podcast without a name." He goes, "Well, we'll get a name down the road." And I'm like, "You're like that parent that doesn't name their kid right away, right?" I'm like, "You need to have a name." And he's like, and I swear it took like maybe 7, 8 seconds. He said, "Generation Y."
And there
And
it
I knew right
was.
away what he meant. I knew he meant WHY because we'd spent a lot of time on the phone over the years just talking about cases and situations. And so we were already kind of doing it just without an audience.
Mm-hmm.
We were asking why. Why did this happen? Why did they not solve it?
Mm-hmm. It's perfect. Makes so much sense. So how do you guys know each other? Did you work together before the podcast?
Well, yes. So I moved to Kansas City in 1992, and I started working with Justin probably, I think, early the next year. We were working at a restaurant together, and it was funny because when I walked in, he noticed I was wearing a band shirt of a band that no one would know. They would never know this band. It's Psychic TV, but he recognized it and said, "Whoa, this guy's different." So we started talking, and we as dishwashers at the time were heavily abused by the wait staff. They did not like us because they blamed us for not having clean dishes or plates fast enough, what have you. And we would show them the machine is running. We have to wait till it's done. It's blazing hot when we open it up. And they didn't care. So they kept harassing us. And so Justin held out a plate while one guy was taking us to task. And the guy kept talking. So Justin dropped the plate. He stopped talking to us. He walked away. And that solved the problem. So I knew early on, Justin is sort of the rebel. I'm the goody two shoes. I'm the one who follows all the rules. Justin will break rules when they need to be broken. So he taught me a valuable lesson that day. I can't do it myself, but I get it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're
Oh,
friends. We're friends now. All these
that
years later.
great balance. Great balance. That's awesome. So you guys are with the Wondery Network. For people that aren't super familiar with podcasting, kind of a big deal. How did that come about, and what was that transition like for you guys?
Yes, we've been fortunate that we've been with some great networks all along. But when Wondery first asked us, we didn't say yes. And then when they asked us again later, we said we did say yes. But Wondery has proven to be the podcast network. They have some of the greatest shows out there on their network. And I can tell you that behind the scenes, the people that we deal with on a daily basis are wonderful people. Just great attitude, always friendly, always take the time to ask how we're doing.
Yeah, makes a difference for sure. So I know you guys had your 10-year anniversary party last year, but do you have any Kansas City meetups or shows lined up in 2023 that people should know about?
Not yet, but previous to the COVID interruption, we were doing a meetup in Kansas City every year. And that was a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to setting something up again.
Okay, that sounds great. I'm going to come and I'm going to bring one of my girlfriends who is absolutely fangirling that I'm interviewing you right now. So I'm going to call her as soon as we get off. She's going to be so excited.
Well, these meetups are fun because we take a lot of time to chat with people and it's a very casual atmosphere.
Perfect. That's so great. So you are a Kansas City transplant. What do you love about it here? What made you want to stay in Kansas City?
Well, Kansas City, I would say the strength is that you can kind of do whatever here. If you want to see sports games, you can do that. If you want to go to museums, they have that. They have great restaurants. You can go downtown or stay north of the river and have different experiences. And one of my favorite things is I can drive my car around wherever I want. I've been to cities where I would say I wouldn't own a car, or at least one that I would enjoy driving because it wouldn't be worth it. It's too crowded. But here you can hit the open road and go for a ride, and it's very nice.
I always tell people that are moving here from out of state, it's underrated that you can just get in your car and go where you want to go without having to worry about a ton of traffic or logistics, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So Kansas City definitely, I think it has a lot going for it. It may not be a big fancy city like New York or Orlando or LA, but it has a lot going for it.
absolutely. Okay, this is a question I ask everyone that comes on the show. What is a great meal you've eaten in Kansas City recently? Something that just stood out to you that people have to go try.
That's an easy answer. To me, the best restaurant, in my opinion, is Seva, and they're up in Liberty. It's Indian cuisine, and I get their chicken curry, which is, I usually have them make it medium because then it's nice and spicy. But it's
That's
absolutely delicious. When you walk in there, you can smell the food, the spices, and everything feels like it's made from scratch.
that sounds awesome. I have not heard of that one, so I will definitely have to check it out. So, okay, last question. Where can people find you? We know the podcast, anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find Generation Y. Where can they find Aaron? Are you on all the socials?
Yes. Well, it depends. If they want the podcast, usually searching for Gen Y Pod, GenWhyPod, will find you all sorts of links. You can also use your podcast apps, whether that's Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Castbox. But if you're looking for me, then you'd have to type in into Twitter, RAASNIO, and that you would locate me then.
Perfect. We'll go find you. Aaron, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for what you guys do. It's such a like fun part of my week when I see that new podcast episode pop up. So me and I know tens of thousands of others appreciate your work. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
All right. Thanks for joining us today on Connecting KC with Aaron from Generation Y. We will see you next time. Thanks so much for joining us today. If we haven't already, let's connect. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and TikTok at Rach the Realtor KC. We're back right here every Thursday morning with a new guest on Connecting KC. See you next time.